Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the 235-member Michigan Marching Band. Band, take the field. Under the direction of Professor Jamie L. Nix, the N Fanfare.
All right, well let's hear this one and then we'll get started. I got my Jim Harbaugh bobblehead. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Sports. First of all, please like this stream, please share it, and please subscribe. If you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App, my PayPal are below. I did not intend to do a live stream today since there's no Michigan football today. But this was requested. There are a lot of angry people right now, and so I thought I'd come on and say a few words and allow the angry people to voice their concerns and to air their grievances. But before we get into that, we're gonna do something a little different here. And what's my iTunes doing? Hold on a second. I have a little surprise for you guys. Hold on. You guys ready for this? I hope no one unsubs me because of this, but I just got to do it based upon what's going on now. Abdul Gaines is the man. Okay, I have a little surprise for you guys here. Just give me a second. Let me cue it up. All right, you guys ready for this? All right, here we go. All right. As much as that song, as much as we've heard that song lately, and as obnoxious as it sounds sometimes, that's actually a cool fight song. So I gotta give it to the Buckeye Nation. I like that song, even though it's from our rival. All right. So I don't have 2 hours worth of stuff to talk about right now. Alex also requested this. So if he's out there and if he wants to come into the stream and talk about whatever it is he wants to say about this thing, then we can do that. But if not, then I'll talk for a little bit and I'll just shut it down. You want to know why? Hey, last night, I didn't plan to go live today, and I did a live stream on my other channel, and I planned to sit down and finish watching this movie. Last night, I was roaming through Hulu looking for something to watch, and I came across James Bond Moonraker. So that's a long movie, and so I only got a little bit through it, and I told myself that I'd finish watching it today, and that's what I was going to do once I got off my other live stream. So once I get finished with this, I'm going to go ahead and finish watching James Bond Moonraker, starring starring Roger Moore. But hey, guess what? You know what? I found out something interesting last night when I was watching Moonraker, and I was looking on my smartphone, and it turns out that the Jaws character, who is a character that's well known in the James Bond movies, this guy, Richard Kiel, this guy is a Michigan man. He's from Detroit. He was born in Detroit. I didn't know that, and I realized that last night when I was watching Moonraker. So those are just that's just a fun Michigan factoid and piece of trivia to keep in mind. So, all right, let's jump in. Let's jump in for what you guys really came here for. I'm going to read an article from the Free Press, and I'm gonna, because that's what we're here to talk about, and that's what's going on right now. Today would have been the Maryland game, and of course, Alex has been telling us about how great Tua's brother is. And so today was going to be the day that Tua's brother was going to light up Don Brown's defense, but because of the bug, our athletic department saw fit to suspend this game. And from what we're hearing, it sounds as though they're not feeling too confident about playing next week's game against Ohio State down at the Shoe. So the question is, and what everybody is chomping at the bit for, is next week's game, is it not being played because the Maize and Blue is genuinely concerned about the coronavirus, or are they using this as a reason to not go down to the Shoe and get plastered next week? None of us know for sure. We can speculate. We know what Abdul Gaines thinks. Let's see what Abdul Gaines thinks. Let's see. The tiki torches are well lit. Fire Harbaugh. Michigan football is an embarrassment. They're going to try their hardest to avoid Ohio State by using the pandemic excuse, just like Florida State did with Clemson. The game better be played next week. We have some more. The current Michigan football team is doing a great disservice to the great Michigan men of my childhood and early adulthood. Wolf 58 in support of Abdul Gaines. Abdul Gaines is the man. Abdul Gaines says, who's got it better than us, Jimmy? I'd say 2/3 of the FBS level football programs right now. Abdul Gaines says, Clemson worked hard to rise to and above the level of the prior ACC power, Florida State. They brought in Boyd and took their program to the next level. Deshaun and Trevor follow. Let me take a sip of my drink here. Ohio State has built a program. Clemson has built a program. Alabama has built a program. Harbaugh has done nothing of the sort. Harbaugh comes off to me as a guy who's awash in semi-retirement. Yeah, there's a huge sentiment nowadays that Jimmy is a snake oil salesman. Harbaugh allowed losses to Ohio State to take the fight out of him. That's something I do not respect. You want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Little Ric Flair woo reference there. The man in the Big Ten is the Ohio State University. Wolf 58 says, what can you say? Really, Michigan has shown its true colors. Abdul Gaines says, if the game is canceled next week, it will be a stain on U of M football I don't think it can ever recover from. Okay, so let's read an article from the Detroit Free Press. No, I will read an article from the Detroit Free Press, which I think accurately frames and depicts what's going on right now. So let me do my screen share. And again, guys, I didn't plan on doing a stream today, so this is all not last minute, but I woke up this morning and said, okay, I'll do one because Abdul Gaines said that I should do one, and Alex said that I should do one as well. Of course, Alex is probably watching Ohio State right now. They were, well, actually, let me check. They were beating Michigan State pretty handily. Hold on. I just saw it on my phone. Oh, yeah. Ohio State, according to this, my smartphone, Ohio State is up 38-10 right now over Michigan State. So Wolf 58, I'm sorry, says OSU is down 17 players versus MSU. OSU still playing the game. Is Michigan worse off than that? No, they're dodging. They're beat down. Just take it like men. Wow. More comment. Facts Wolf 58. Trepacole says, the thing I find interesting is the sentiment being expressed by so many in the Michigan media that they don't want to see this team play any more games this season just because they're losing. Okay, let's see what the Free Press has to say about this. There was a nice pretty, we'll block that. There was a nice pretty thumbnail of Ward Manuel when I first opened this article. So this article reads, hey guys, I got 5 watching. Can I get at least get 5 likes? So this article reads, Michigan football, darn, where'd it go? Yeah, there's the picture of War Manual. Michigan football pessimistic about playing Ohio State game as COVID-19 details emerge. It's a picture of War Manual. Michigan AD infuriated by notion that Michigan football team is ducking anyone. I'm going to read that again for you guys out there. AD infuriated by notion football team is ducking anyone. Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel answered questions from a U of M media reporter about the football team's pause on Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. Okay, here we go. University of Michigan athletic officials are pessimistic about their ability to travel to Columbus in 2 Saturdays for their annual football game against Ohio State. 3 people with direct knowledge of the situation told the Free Press. The pessimism comes as officials conduct contact tracing and await testing results on players and staff. At least a dozen members of the football program tested positive for COVID-19 earlier this week, causing a shutdown of the program and this Saturday's game against Maryland, sources said. The sources requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the outbreak. Let's see, what else? The contact tracing and the concern about more positive tests stems from the hours after last week's loss to Penn State, the Free Press learned. According to the 3 sources, players were present at a number of small gatherings after the Penn State game to celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. It's hard to pinpoint the exact role of those gatherings in the outbreak, sources said. But there is belief in the program that Saturday played a role in accelerating the outbreak. The gatherings are believed to have taken place in settings among players and also in settings among parents and players, sources said. U of M had worked to discourage any gatherings over the Thanksgiving weekend, including during the midweek call last week with players' families to tell them not to gather, program spokesman David Abloff told the Free Press. It's not unusual for players to eat together, he added. Many of our players live together, so they could have chosen to eat together just like any other day of the week, even though eating in groups has been discouraged by the staff throughout the season, Abloff said. In keeping with the daily plan and process, players were provided grab-and-go Thanksgiving meals so they could eat at their place of residence. On Wednesday, Michigan announced it was pausing all in-person football activities until at least Monday. No decision has been made beyond that date, Abloff said. In his weekly press conference this week, Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh acknowledged at least one player tested positive before Saturday's game against Penn State. On Monday, the program shifted to virtual team activities while it awaited confirmatory testing results. I'm going to look at my comment section for a moment here. Let's see. Wolf. Trepicol says, the thing I find interesting is the sentiment being expressed by so many. Okay, so he said, that's what he said before. And Wolf 58 said, Trepicols agree. Okay, so let me go back. This is a short article. Everybody's tested daily, Harbaugh said Monday. We've been tested 4 times since Friday and every day before that. Even if they're a presumptive positive the day before the game, night before the game, they're not allowed to play, which we've had 2. It's unclear what the current COVID positivity rate is within the Michigan football program. Michigan Athletics discloses combined positivity rates among all sports every Friday, but not team by team. According to Big Ten guidelines, teams must stop practicing and cease all competition when its population positivity rate, the number of positive results divided by the number of people within a program, including players, coaches, support staff, and medical personnel, exceeds 7.5%. The outbreak comes despite Michigan being outspoken about its successful implementation of player safety protocols during the pandemic. The news has helped to fuel conspiracy theories, including from ESPN analyst Kirk Herbstreit, that the Wolverines, who are 2-4 this season, might try to avoid playing number 4 Ohio State to avoid an embarrassing defeat and also sabotage the Buckeyes' bid for a Big Ten championship. So it says in parentheses, OSU must play Saturday against Michigan State, then next week against the Wolverines to have enough games to qualify for the conference title game. So I've mentioned that people like Big Ten officials like Barry Alvarez want to switch over to a percentage metric to give Ohio State a better chance of qualifying. Harbaugh, here we go, is 0-5 as a coach against Ohio State. I have to pause because my words, the anger, I was infuriated by the insinuation that Michigan would do anything other than play a football game. Michigan Athletic Director Warden, I guess that's his full name, Warden Manuel, said Wednesday in a stern rebuke of Herbstreit's comments. We've been playing this game since 1879. We are the winningest program for a reason because we play whoever is in front of us. The only way we want to keep anybody from moving on is to beat them on the field. Despite the pessimism at Michigan, Ohio State Director Gene Smith said Thursday on his self-titled podcast that he was optimistic the game would be played. The Buckeyes were forced to cancel last week's game against Illinois because of a COVID outbreak, but they were able to return this week without head coach Ryan Day, who tested positive for the novel coronavirus on November 27th. Okay, last paragraph. Michigan stopped practicing on Monday, so that gives them a good 7 days to try and basically do what we did to try to make the corrections that need to be made, Smith said. I think they'll be back and we should be able to play unless they have a rash that's uncontrollable. I know they want to play. I'm sure that they're working hard to make sure they have the chance to play. Okay, so there we are. Let's see what the rest of the comments say. This is from Wolf58. If Michigan dodges their game next week, every coach / recruiter will destroy them for the foreseeable future, and rightfully so. Nate, the depressed Wolverine fan, says, hello, Nate. I don't think I've ever seen you before. I would remember that name. Welcome to the channel. Let's see. Here we go. The irrelevant winningest program cliches. Yeah. When I read that in the piece just now, I was kind of like, Ward, did you have to say that? But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that they're, well, I know what you guys think, but do you guys think that they are chickening out per se to avoid playing the game next week? I don't know. I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, you haven't settled on a quarterback. Your defense is like a how do they say, like a piece of Swiss cheese. And what is player morale like in that locker room? So if you could use this as a way to kind of just unplug the whole thing, I don't know. And the question is, would the Michigan football program do that? And I imagine that's not just that can't be just Jim making that decision. It's got to be there has to be multiple people in there making that decision. So I don't know that would be just Jim doing that, even though the perception is that they are. But it's got to be hard at this point with the last showing against Penn State, and then again we didn't get to see Cade for that entire game. But it's got to be a hard decision to at least play it. And I know that might sound bad to you guys, but when your team is underperforming like the way it has been, it's getting shellacked the way it has been. Do you want to go down there and potentially take the worst beating ever against the bully on the block? I don't know. It's a tough decision to be in that spot. I mean, I would probably go ahead and play the game. I think it would be, for the players coming back next season, they could use that as a valuable experience. A lot of championship teams are built, and a lot of character is built by taking an ass whipping, like the one they would take next week. So if I were a head coach, I would probably just go ahead and do it if it were up to me, all things the same. But there may be a domino effect from this going forward in terms of the entire program and recruiting and the reputation of the school and of the athletic program. So I don't know. I'm going to stop the screen share. Wolf says, doesn't matter. Compete with what you've got. Even Nebraska, as bad as they've been, doesn't give up. Treppa Cole says, I watched a video on YouTube where Chris Ballas said he's good with Michigan not playing any more games this season if the bug is not an issue, including the 9th crossover game or a bowl game. Let's see. Tripper Cole said, in the same breath, Chris Ballas said it would be different if Michigan was undefeated. No doubt. No doubt. If there was something at stake for both teams, and if both teams were in contention for a berth in that Big Ten championship game, then no doubt, then Michigan would be doing everything it could to play that game. So the crossover game, you'll have to help me out here. Is that if a game gets canceled, they can make the game up? Because I in the article it said the question was whether or not they'd be able to play in the next 2 weeks. So I'm assuming there maybe was some potential built in there for them to make a game up or make this game up. Is that what you mean by a crossover game, Treppa? I'm going to do something. Let's see. We're at about 31 minutes here. Again, I didn't intend to do this live stream. Excuse me, since there was no game, but it was requested. So I am. I am going to. Alex normally comes in and comes up. You guys no one has to come up into the stream with me if you don't want to, but I will leave the option there in case you want to. You don't have to turn your camera on. You could just use an Avi, which is what people do on the other channels. But I'll go for just a little bit longer, and then I'll shut down and finish watching my James Bond movie. Trevor Cole says, what's at stake is getting your younger players reps, right? Well, yeah, so that's that would be valuable experience for the younger players, though they've probably been getting quite a bit of experience this season with the injuries that we've seen on the offensive line and also on the defense. Kwity Paye went out, and Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg, and then Cam McGrone got carted off against Rutgers, I believe. So we already have a lot of younger players getting reps, but maybe just the experience of being in the horseshoe and getting their tails whipped, might galvanize them for the future and make some of those kids angry, which I think would be a good thing. Let's see what Abdul Gaines has to say. Abdul Gaines says Michigan State is rebuilding. They're getting shellacked by. I love that word, shellacked. They're getting shellacked by Ohio State today. They haven't quit on their season. They beat a top 10 Northwestern team last week. They have more guts than U of M. I love Abdul Gaines' take. I just love that passion and that fire and that just. I love it every time he shows up. And keep in mind, I see Abdul Gaines' text messages all week long. Let's take a look at the rest of the Big Ten. Let's see what's happening in the rest of the Big Ten right now. Bear with me for a second here, guys. Big Ten. I was looking forward to seeing, based upon what Alex said about Tua's brother, I was looking forward to seeing Tua's brother play. Because arguably, Alex said Tua's brother is better than Tua. So let's see. Well, 58 says, forget 007. The Buckeyes are crushing MSU 52-10. Hey, what do you want me to do about that? I mean, I can't. My hands are tied. There's no game today. I can't control whether or not Michigan plays. I just want to finish my James Bond movie. Hold on a second. So it looks like Rutgers is beating Purdue 37. They beat Purdue 37-30. No, that was last Saturday. Today, Nebraska beat Purdue 37-27. Ohio State is laying the beat down on Michigan State 52-10. This is the score that I think all of us would predict next week if Jimmy takes his team down to the horseshoe. Or, geez, I hate to say it could be worse than this. If Cade McNamara were to play, I think we'd put up at least 10 points. That's just my prediction. So it wouldn't be. Yeah, they put up at least 10 to 17 points. But I imagine Justin Fields and Master Teague and Chris Olave and those guys would have their way with Don Brown's defense. Penn State beat Rutgers 23-7. And then our later two games are Indiana versus Whiskey and Iowa versus Illinois. So those are our current Big Ten scores. Let's go back to the chat and see what you guys are cooking up over here. Wolf58 says, MSU is worthy of respect. They compete. Trepper Coles. That was Abdul Gaines. Trepper Coles says, this week, more stories have come out from reputable sources about the culture problem with the Michigan football team. People are saying Joe Milton will transfer after the season was open. You know what? I've talked about that in my live streams. Well, Trepper Coles, here's a question that relates to what you said. Is Joe Milton going to play again? I think based upon what we've seen, I think Joe may have played his last game in our beloved winged helmets. Based upon what we've seen, and me and Alex Dilworth have debated this back and forth. I think that based upon what we've seen, I think Cade McNamara gives us the best chance to win in the limited time. Now, Alex felt that Cade wasn't necessarily outplaying Joe Milton. Alex thought that they adjusted the offense so that Cade McNamara was throwing those quick routes and he was getting rid of the ball much faster than Joe, and that Joe was taking deep drops and looking downfield. I thought, and I questioned whether or not it was the same offense, but Cade was just running it better. So, unfortunately, because Cade got hurt against Penn State, we don't know. We know that Cade hurt a shoulder, and when Joe came in to spell him late in that game, Cade's arm was hanging like this, so his shoulder clearly wasn't right. I'm sorry, his shoulder clearly wasn't right, and it's entirely possible that all he could do was get off those short drops, and at that time, Penn State was playing press coverage, and so we don't know if Cade was physically able to throw the ball down the field. So we don't know how Cade would have done for that entire game, and it's possible that Michigan would have won that game had Cade played for that entire game, but we'll never know, and we don't know, unfortunately, what we have in its entirety. Joe, let's see. Wolf58 said, Joe should transfer to Ohio State. We'll turn him into a really good linebacker. Well, he's got the size, and he's got the quickness, and he's got some mobility. So he could be, and he knows how to play quarterback. So he might get he might be able to get a lot of interceptions if he played linebacker. Trepper Cole says, I listened to a lot of podcasts. I think you meant podcasts, as in plural, sports talk radio and YouTube, and I get the impression Joe won't be back. Chris Ballas said he doesn't expect Eubanks back either. Oh, did Eubanks have more eligibility? I thought that he was a senior. And if he has more eligibility and he's leaving, that's a loss for us. I don't know why he wasn't more utilized in the time that he was playing this year. I thought that it seemed like Eric All. Apparently, Jim was very, very in love with Eric All, and he sang Eric All's praises. But I think, I don't know, you go with your most senior guy. Nick Eubanks had played quite a bit. He played in some of the bigger games, and it was surprising to me that Nick Eubanks wasn't out there more. But there are a lot of head scratchers about the program and about this year. Now, going back to Joe, I've been pretty consistent in saying that both he and Dylan should have been given the opportunity to play earlier. But then again, if Shea was, I think Alex said that Shea was the guy coming out of high school. If Shea was the guy, then that makes sense why Jim would shove everybody else to the side to allow Shea to get in there. But for the sake of morale and for the sake of development and seeing what you had, I thought that Jim maybe should have gone with two of the younger guys earlier. But for Joe to have been the guy starting this season out, and for things to have gone the way that they have, and for Cade to have come in and to have moved the ball the way he did, maybe Joe sees that there's no future for him here now. And maybe Joe doesn't think he'll be developed, or maybe Joe doesn't think he was developed adequately in Ann Arbor. Let's see what my latest comment says. From Abdul Gaines. Justin Fields. I'm reading Abdul Gaines' chats with a certain amount of projection. Justin Fields is going to be the likely number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft. He could have easily shut it down and opted out to prepare for the NFL draft. He didn't. That shows commitment. Yeah, I'll give it to Justin. Even when Kevin Warren and the Big Ten presidents played the old switcheroo on us, and they gave us a 10-game season, and then they snatched it away. From what I was hearing, Justin Fields was one of the main ones vocally saying, "Come on, let us play, let us play, let us play." So Justin Fields is he's a real gamer. In addition to his athletic ability, seems like the kid has a real killer instinct. So so I agree, Abdul Gaines, with that. And then this one is going to be one of the biggest head scratchers of all time. Jim Harbaugh is a quarterback killer. So I think, this was one of the main things we were looking for him to do when he came to Ann Arbor back in 2014. And this has probably been one of the biggest question marks and one of the biggest underperformances of his tenure, which is that we do not have a stud quarterback. We have not had a stud quarterback since Jim took over. He went with the grad transfers, and him and his staff have not been able to develop successfully any of the younger guys that they brought in. So at this time, in year 6, going on year 7, wouldn't we have expected to see another Tom Brady or another Drew Henson or at least another John Navarre or Chad Henne? Wouldn't we all, I think we all expected to see another stud quarterback under center for us, who could at least lead us to compete with Ohio State, and who could at least put us in contention for the Big Ten championship game more than 2 out of Jim's 6 years. 2 of 6, that's 33%. So only for a third of Jim's years have we been at least in contention to go to the Big Ten championship game. So that's a big that will have been one of Jim's biggest failures is his recruiting, grooming, and sending a number of big-time quarterbacks to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh, Trevor Cole says, Jim Harbaugh has you scratching your heads. Are you confident he can get it corrected? And if so, why? Geez, Trepa, at this point, I'm just going to say, I don't know, man. I mean, the other thing is Jim played the position. He played with success under Bo. He played with success at the pro level. And most of Jim's success was with the Indianapolis Colts. I remember I was in high school at that time. Ted Marchibroda. I know Abdul Gaines remembers who that was. Ted Marchibroda was the offensive coordinator under Marv Levy for our Buffalo Bills. And so Ted Marchibroda took over the Colts, who were in the AFC East at that time. And Jim almost led the Colts to the Super Bowl, where they would have played the Dallas Cowboys, but the Steelers went instead. So I'm saying this to say Jim played successfully at Michigan. Jim had some level of success as a pro quarterback himself. So it's strange that he cannot teach the position to one of his own recruits. If there's no other position that the Michigan football program should be known for under his leadership, it should be quarterback. So maybe when he's gone, there'll be a tell-all book written explaining why he was unable to develop any of them. But going back to his pro days with San Francisco, do I have my my Stay Woke picture here? And you know who Stay Woke is? No, I don't have yeah, give me a second, guys. I'm gonna fetch it because it's appropriate and it's appropriate. You know, one of the selling points, I remember that initial press conference when Jim came back in 2014. Jim Hackett. One of the things Jim Hackett sold us on was that Jim had success for the 49ers, and Jim led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. But I think one of the big mysteries and their reasons for this is what happened with Cap. Jim did salvage Alex Smith, and then Jim, I guess, saw the future of the franchise in Cap, and Cap had some success, but Cap never took that next step to becoming an NFL quarterback once the defenses figured him out and once the rest of his team started falling away. You know, you have to remember that Cap had a nice running game with Frank Gore, the offensive line they had. He had Vernon Davis playing tight end. He had Crabtree. And I think on that Super Bowl roster, they also had Randy Moss. So they had some players around Cap. But again, NFL quarterbacks are only as good as the protection and the skill players they have. But Cap, when he declined, he declined. He didn't at least keep that 49er team stable. So why didn't Cap go to that next level? Let me take this picture down. Give me a second. I have some comments come in. Let's see. Let's go back to this comment by Jamie. Oh, Jamie. Yeah, Jamie commented under my last video. I think he says something snarky like, I think they need to teach English or speaking at U of M. That's okay. I appreciate that. This is a sports channel, and there's a lot of smack talking always going on in sports channels, and that was the tip of the iceberg in terms of some of the comments I've gotten under my video. So Jamie says, just quit. Save yourselves as the whippings of all ass whippings. Save yourself. Get to the chopper. That's an Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator reference, which is one of my favorite movies, by the way. The original Predator, not one of the latest ones. Abdul Gain says Steve Dace on the most recent Michigan podcast said a source told him that after the Rutgers game, Milton said he is going to transfer to put 50 on U of M's ass. The attitude is unacceptable. Yeah, it's gotta be hard for him. He in that game, the opening series looked good. Joe did not have any control over whether or not Cornelius Johnson fumbled that ball. That was out of Joe's control. Joe hit him. Cornelius just had to turn, protect the ball, and make the play. And then Joe and the offense weren't right after that. It's stagnated. And then at that point, as the coaching staff, what do? Do you stay stagnated and risk a loss to Rutgers? Or do you give the younger quarterback a chance? And it turned out to benefit the team, putting Caden McNamara in there. So that's a tough situation to be in, to be the starter and then to lose the spot. And only one person can play the quarterback positions. That's got to be tough. Jamie Strawn says, I guess 6 years isn't enough time, LOL. Hey, Jamie, which Ohio State player is that in that thumbnail? That's clearly one of the older helmets because the vent isn't there on the crown. But which player is that, or is it a generic Ohio State player? All hail Michigan says, I was worried about future Wolverine JJ McCarthy if Harbaugh were to be fired. Would we lose him and others? Answer is we won't lose JJ either way. He said he's willing to come to Ann Arbor regardless. Oh, that's cool. That's totally cool. So if you get rid of Jim, then you for damn sure better make sure you have someone who can develop a quarterback, or if you bring in a defensive guy, make sure that defensive guy hires someone proven on his staff who can develop a quarterback, because I hate to say it, we haven't seen that from Jimbo. Jimbo seems to, if you guys want to make a donation, if it's $1, $2, or whatever, my Cash App is right there in the chat. I appreciate whoever is here. We're about an hour in, almost at an hour in. I didn't expect to do this today. I appreciate the 10 people watching. There's no game to report on. We're just speculating about next week's game down at the Shoe and what's going to happen with Jimmy and the program. What was I going to say? Oh, Jimmy seems really good at salvaging struggling players and getting them to produce, such as Alex Smith, such as Jake Rudock. Not so much with John O'Korn. Whatever it was he saw in Shea and whatever led to Shea being rated a 5-star when Shea went to Ole Miss, we didn't see that in Ann Arbor. It might have been the conservative play calling. And then Shea also struggled the first year under Josh Gaddis's speed and space thing. So we don't know. I don't know. We don't know if we saw the real Shea Patterson. But that's good news to know that JJ is going to come regardless. That takes a lot of guts, even with all the negative talk and all of the criticism and all of the buzz and everything. That's going to take a lot of guts to still come to Ann Arbor. And I appreciate that as a Michigan fan. Jamie Strawn says, Ryan Day promised to hang 100 on y'all. Yep. Let's see. All Hail Michigan says, although JJ definitely wants to play for Coach Harbaugh. So these are all things that, take a sip of my drink here. Those are all things that are going to have to be decided when Ward Manuel and Jim sit down. Because even though JJ is saying he wants to come, yeah, players sometimes change their mind when that coach that recruited them says, okay, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna leave. That does impact what players want to do. But certainly we know that Ann Arbor is at least a great place to go to school, even though we're not winning a lot of football games right now. And I'm disappointed that I didn't get to go to Ann Arbor this year. By the way, they closed my favorite Chinese restaurant, Chinagate, over there in South U. So there have been a lot of casualties due to COVID. Chinagate was my favorite. That was my go-to restaurant in Ann Arbor. The curry chicken was really, really good. Trevor Cole says, JJ McCarthy is a vintage Michigan man already. All right, Trepa. Somehow I sense that there's some humor in there and that you don't mean that in the most positive way. Let's see. Where were we? Wolf 58 says, why indeed? He's never won anything outside of FCS San Diego in the Pioneer League. College and pro are like night and day. He's a fraud as a big-time college coach. Michigan was conned. I can't argue against that right now. I just can't. Jamie Strong said, you thought you hired Urban Meyer, but you really hired John Cooper. Jamie's throwing some real haymakers today. You know what? Everybody thought, except and Jim did have his critics back then. Jim has made a lot of enemies along the way, by the way. He's made a lot of enemies. Feinbaum's been after him for a while. That Chris Valenti's been after him for a while. So Jim is I don't know what happened, but Jim's made a lot of enemies. But yeah, we all thought that we were getting someone who would at least have us in the Big Ten championship game, or at least have us in contention for that regularly. But you see what happened. So, and that's surprising, again, with his pedigree, with at least just his pedigree, that he hasn't gotten more out of the talent that he's had. AS says Harbaugh equals daddy. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know there's something derogatory in his comment, but I don't know. I don't understand all of the meaning. Harbaugh should go to the NFL because recruiting is not his strongest attribute. You know what's funny, Jamie? Is that when he first came back, if you guys think back, ESPN was doing a John Gruden type of thing with Jimmy. Remember that? They were having players come to Ann Arbor and sit in his office, and they were taping it, and he was conducting NFL-style interviews with those players, and kind of like John Gruden would do with his quarterback show, where he'd have the young quarterbacks coming in. So, at some point, that stopped, but there was a lot of, maybe it was a gimmick, but they did that when he first started back in Ann Arbor as the head coach. Jamie Wolf 58 says, at Jamie, hold on there. John Cooper won the Big Ten title multiple times and a Rose Bowl victory. Comparing him to Harbaugh is an insult. Yeah, John Cooper at least got a couple of wins against Michigan in there, and he did get out to the Rose Bowl. And John Cooper did have some very competitive teams before they pulled the plug on him. So John Cooper wasn't a terrible coach by any stretch of the imagination. So Jamie says Katz and Moyer. So this must have been either one of Jim Tressel's players or must have been one of John Cooper's players, I'm thinking. Abdul Gain says, I meant to say after the Rutgers game. Sour YT, what's going on, Sour YT? Harbaugh isn't consistent. It's the main reason he isn't good anymore. I guarantee the moment he goes somewhere else, he will be incredible first, then decline like he did here. And you know what's interesting? I did capture in my video when Jimmy came home, he was all about the enthusiasm. And when he first came, attack life with enthusiasm unknown to mankind, get better tomorrow than we were today. Who's got it better than us? There was all that in the beginning. And then at some point, that went somewhere. And I suspect it went somewhere after the revenge tour Ohio State game. And then, that 2019 season when Josh Gaddis came in to try to implement the speed and space. I think that revenge tour game down in Columbus might have been the back breaker, because I'm reading Overtime right now by John U. Bacon. And in that book does accurately capture the buildup to the revenge tour Ohio State game in 2018. The belief for that game was very, very strong that we could get that one down in Columbus. I remember Dwayne Haskins came back for his junior year. Of course, in the 2017 game, Dwayne Haskins showed us just how good he was. I thought JT Barrett going out was going to put us in position to win that game, but Dwayne Haskins turned out to be a real gamer. But reading Overtime, there was a lot of belief that I remember Ohio State started off strong that year. I think they beat TCU down in Jerry World, and then they kind of leveled out and dropped off a little bit. And so again, I think Jim had the team to go down to Columbus to win, but I'm going to put that loss solely on Jim and Don Brown's shoulders. And I think after that nice team that he had, because there was talent on that team, I think something snapped in him. So we're going to go for just a little bit longer, guys, and then I want to go watch my James Bond movie. Let's see. Where were we? So I did do the. Let's see. John Cooper, Katzenmoyer. Triple Cole says, compared to some of the players on the 2020 Michigan team, JJ is a throwback to the players of the past who loved the school. That brings up the an interesting point, which is that Kirk Herbstreit, in my last video, I did voice that Kirk Herbstreit is a little concerned about the entire college football landscape right now, because I guess, we've seen it at U of M that when the team doesn't get into the playoff and you're stuck with the bowl game, we do see now that, at least in the Michigan program, some players opt out and decide to try to get ready for the NFL draft as opposed to risking injury. But based upon what I read in that article, I think Kirk Herbstreit is concerned across the board that a lot of players are doing this, because at this point, if you don't get into the playoff, who wants to play in a bowl game for a little consequence just to play in a bowl game? Remember that Jake Butt got hurt. Jake Butt blew out his knee in that Citrus Bowl against Florida State after we lost the JT Barrett first down game. So this appears to be a concern amongst a lot of the other big-time college football programs, or at least maybe Kirk Herbstreit has been the mouthpiece for that. But if you're a student athlete and you don't have anything to play for besides winning a bowl game, and you stand to lose your millions, can you blame them? Let's see. So the players, are kind of mercenaries in a way right now. But can you blame them? Jamie says that picture was from the 1998 Michigan game. Yep. So that's yeah. You could tell by the design of the helmet. Jamie Strawn says, "You're a good dude. I respect your channel." Hey, Jamie, thanks. I appreciate that. I think as long as we keep it respectful and we have fun, that's the most important thing. I have a huge respect for the Ohio State and their football program and their fan base. And I'd like to go down to the shoe before my time is up to see a game in the shoe. I've been to Columbus one time. Columbus seems like a nice little cozy place to live. So I went once. I was pretty heavy into salsa dancing at one point. You wouldn't look at me and think it, but when I was in Ann Arbor, I got into salsa, and we took a trip down to Columbus one time, and it seemed like a really nice place to be in. So I'd like to go to the shoe, assuming it's safe to go to the shoe. I'd like to go to the shoe and see a game at least once in my lifetime. Let's see. Abdul Gain says the administration is not committed as to football as a big time administration would be. When fans like me are more committed to a football than a university administration, that's a serious problem. Well, I know that the Michigan is an animal all in itself, and I remember there were at least a couple of kids that Rich Rod wanted, but that the program, the university, the registrar, or whomever, the powers that be, wouldn't allow that particular kid to come to Ann Arbor to play in the program. So, it's a different program than the Ohio State University and Alabama and Auburn and Clemson. So, Treppa says, I feel a sneeze coming on here. Would you say the administration is more concerned with the money coming in than winning? Well, I think for every administration, money is a concern because, money, the football program pays for everything else. And I created a video on that when most of the college football was shut down a couple of months ago. You're paying for not only the football, but you're paying for women's volleyball, women's field hockey, women's soccer, men's field hockey, lacrosse. You're paying for all those things through the football program, and probably to some degree the college basketball as well. So that's a major concern. If as long as those people are purchasing tickets and the luxury boxes are sold out, and if the merchandise is being purchased and people are traveling to stay in the hotels and frequenting the restaurants, that's a huge concern for the institutions and the athletic directors. So even if the coach is underperforming, and if the coach is not what the Abdul Gaines half of the fan base wants, as long as the product is still selling, though arguably if your program's not getting into the playoff and the Big Ten championship game, they're missing a payout every year as well. Kind of like getting into the NCAA tournament. Let's see. Wolf 58 says, Abdul Gaines, they're too busy with their wine and cheese parties and discussing the glory days. Yeah, and Ann Arbor, I guess in some ways, is pretentious, more so than East Lansing. And I think Ann Arbor is very much a wine and cheese institution, similar to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Wolf 58 says, Ohio Stadium is the greatest venue in college football. My 4 years in Columbus were the best of my life, without question. Yeah, that's on the list. I want to get down to just to say that I went and I was there, and just to see the to be in the atmosphere, I do want to go to the shoe. I want to go into the horseshoe. What happened to my horseshoe overlay? I might just have it for my background. Hey, I appreciate all you guys being in here. This is we don't have a game today, and live streams are not like shooting pre-recorded content, where you have a set amount of time you want to speak, and you shoot the video and you edit it and you upload it and then you just let it go. Live streams really are impacted by the participation of people who come up into the live stream, or who are or the people who are hanging out in the chat. So if you guys weren't hanging out in the chat, I would have shut this down a while ago. So I appreciate you guys being here. Abdul Gain says Treppa Coles, yes. All Hail Michigan says, loving the channel, great conversations, glad I subbed, and look forward to chopping it up with you in the future. Yeah, appreciate that. All Hail Michigan. I plan to do some other stuff with the channel, but the bedrock of it is Michigan football. So as long as I have this channel open, and regardless of who the next coach is, whether it's PJ Fleck or Luke Fickell or someone else, this will continue to be a Michigan football channel. But as I like to say, all of the other fan bases are welcome as long as you come in and you are civil. Brandon Harper says, do you think it's fair to have the rules changed for Ohio State? And if so, do you think the same thing would happen for a team like Wisconsin who wouldn't make the playoffs? Well, I'll answer your question with a question. Has it been fair to any of the kids to have COVID come into the country this season? It's an unprecedented year, and it's an unprecedented set of circumstances and series of events. So that's our winningest program. And I think that one of you guys can answer this for me. Is it would the whole Big Ten get a piece of the money if Ohio State gets into the playoff and even wins the thing? That might be factoring into their decision as well. But yeah, I mean, you want one of your teams in there, and this is a talented roster in its entirety, the Ohio State Buckeye team. So, they're doing this for a reason. They're doing this for a reason. So, and there are a lot of fans like Abdul Gaines and his twin brother, Raheem Gaines, who have a whole lot of animosity for those teams in the South, like Alabama. They can't stand St. Nick. Alabama and Clemson and the other Southern teams. They can't stand the South. Speaking of Raheem Gaines, Urban Gaines, or Sensei, or Sweep the Leg, that's a running joke in our group. That's a Karate Kid reference. Is Ward Manuel's job safe? I don't see why not. I think the athletic department was healthy up until COVID-19, and I don't see why someone like why Mark Schlissel or the Regents would want to fire Ward Manuel unless there's something, Raheem Gaines, that you don't know. I'm sorry, there's something that you know that I don't know and the rest of us don't know about Ward Manuel. Yeah, Alex is probably watching his team play Michigan State, though that game is over. Let's take a look at the final score. Yes, the Ohio State won that game 52-12. So I guess Michigan State must have got a safety, or they must have done a 2-point conversion or something to get them those extra 2 points. Let's see. Yeah, Penn State beat Rutgers. It looks like Indiana and Wisconsin just kicked off. Illinois is up 7-0 on Iowa. Okay, guys, I'm going to go just a little bit longer. Let's see if we can stretch this out another 15 minutes. So let me stop the screen share. And I took down my pretty horseshoe background. Let me put that back. There. So that's enabled. Let's see what else we have here. Wolf58 says, great conversation. Loved it. Looking forward to the next time. Hey, Wolf, thank you for coming through. Thank you to everyone who has come through. I realized that, doing the live streams, I imagine if the team were winning, there'd be more Michigan fans in here talking smack and, getting revved up about things. But the team is on a downward trend right now. But I've also had to remember what helped me grow the channel. And I think in terms of being a YouTube content creator, until your audience is big enough, in addition to doing the live streams, you also have to do the short pre-records. My channel has been running neck and neck with Buckeye Vinny. And I wanted to do a collab with Buckeye Vinny, but maybe Buckeye Vinny doesn't want to do this just yet. And maybe in the future, if you're watching Buckeye Vinny, we can collaborate at some point. But our channel, I think he's a little bit out ahead of me right now. Not that we're competing, but I think viewers also like the short pre-recorded videos as well. So those will come out. I'll be doing more of those. And because there's going to be a lot of news coming out about the program and about Jimmy and what's going to happen. If Jimmy stays, it's going to be news. If Jimmy goes, it's going to be news. So there's going to be a lot to report on and discuss surrounding the program. Abdul Gaines comes back and he says, Ward isn't going anywhere. Right now, I believe U of M basketball is number one in the 2021 24/7 sports recruiting rankings. U of M hockey is good. Ward is safe. Yeah, so someone asked me on a previous live stream if I'm going to do basketball as well. Yeah, I will do some basketball. I have to admit that over the previous couple of years, I haven't, even when John Beeline's teams were doing really good, I was always watching from a bit of a distance. But now having this channel, this is a good excuse to pay attention to what Juwan Howard is doing with the basketball program. Hey, did I tell you guys that I met Jalen Rose in Detroit Metro Airport a couple of years ago? I think I was at a Michigan football game and I was waiting on my Delta flight. I did something janky. I might have tried to get a later flight instead of my early flight, and I wound up hanging out in Detroit Metro Airport for 8 hours because I didn't want to pay the $50 change fee. And so I was hanging out in the airport, and Jalen Rose and two other people came walking through, and he and I took a picture, and I lost that picture because I lost that phone. But I met Jalen Rose one time. He was a nice guy. Wolf says, at Brandon Harper, if another school like Ohio State's, if another school doesn't get Ohio State's preferential treatment, change the narrative. When constantly winning has its privileges, Ohio State has worked hard to get to this point. So I think Wolf is saying, they've earned the right to have these types of adjustments made for them. So, they've earned the right to get these things done for them. And they have a talented squad. Put them in there, see if they could beat Clemson this year or whoever they get paired up with in that opening round game. But I also think maybe they should expand it to 8 teams at this point. Certainly, you sometimes have deserving teams that deserve to get into post-season play. Then again, some would argue that your conference championship game is part of the tournament as well. So maybe that's your elimination game. And I could see the argument being made for that. But for the playoff, maybe you do want to allow a few. I think that would be 4 more. Yeah, you could form a nice bracket with a semifinal round, quote unquote, with eight teams, or would that be a quarterfinal round? But either way, you can you can allow 4 more teams in there, 4 more at-large teams in there. That would make it, because our 2016 team, where Jim coached Brady Hoke's players in an 8-game format, that team would have gotten into postseason play. So sometimes janky things happen throughout the year, like injuries or suspect officiating, and the kids get the short end of the stick. Raheem Gaines says, I'm not sure if I told you about us meeting Jalen. No, I never knew you guys met Jalen. You'll have to tell me about that sometime. Jalen was definitely a part of our high school years, because that's when the Fab Five, that was the 1991-92 season, and those guys absolutely left their mark on the basketball world. And Jalen still supports the Michigan football program on when he does media. He puts the Wolverine hat on, and he wears his maize and blue, and he takes it on the chin when our team gets embarrassed against the other Big Ten teams. Treppa Coles asks, has Jim earned the right to an extension? Treppa, the only thing I would say about that is that I don't feel right putting his head on the chopping block after this particular season. So if this hadn't happened, we would have had Nico Collins back, and Nico Collins would have been the perfect target for someone like Joe Milton, because Joe has that cannon arm, and even though he struggled on the underneath routes and putting touch on the ball, Nico Collins would have gotten a lot of targets, and so that would have covered up a lot of sins. We also lost Ambry Thomas, so not only would you have had Daxton Hill out there in that backfield, that defensive backfield, you would have had Ambry Thomas as well, and so maybe you don't have as many penalties like we had against Michigan State and Indiana. So I'm hesitant to chop his head off the way Abdul Gaines would after a season like this. So, but the big thing is going to be if he gets the extension. And if he doesn't get the extension, what does that say to new recruits that are looking to come here? Gideon Starkweather says, I agree with an 8-game playoff. There are teams like at M and Cincinnati. Oh, A&M. I didn't know what that meant. Yeah, apparently Luke Fickell has really coached that Bearcat team up, and they arguably should be in the playoff. And if they win out, if Cincinnati wins out, there's going to be a controversy at the end as to whether or not to put them in versus one of the Power 5 teams. So I can already see that coming. Here we go. At Trevor Coles, Harbaugh has more than earned the right to suffer the embarrassment of being fired. Abdul Gaines doesn't want an amicable, civil parting of ways. He wants to see Jim get the Wolf 58 says, I think when all is said and done, this season is going to leave an incredible stain on Michigan football for an entire generation. Well, let's see. I'm an easygoing guy. I tend to try to turn the page a little more easily than everyone else. But yeah, for a lot of other people, this might be whatever happens next week and this entire season may be an unforgivable sin for a lot of people. But hopefully, if Jim stays or whoever else they bring in, it'll be a smooth transition, and the team will at least play competitively on both sides of the ball. Brandon asks, do you think Michigan will be able to rebound and land the same amount of recruits on the same level as previous ones after a tough season and in the relatively biased college football recruiting system. Well, Brandon, here's what I think as you're asking that. I think the big thing, one of the biggest chasms or gulfs of the Jim Harbaugh program has been the player development. And me and Alex, we've agreed on this, not just it's most glaring at the quarterback position, but the other players. And when you think about how teams like Michigan State and even Ohio State have been able to develop the 3 stars, you also want a program that's going to develop the lower talent players as well, because you're going to have injuries. You want to establish depth, and in those lean years when you're not getting all the 4 and the 5 stars, you still want a competitive program. And so there have been quite a few players to come into the Power 5 schools and go to the NFL who weren't 4 and 5 stars coming out of high school. So I think the other knock against Jim's program is the player development. That's a huge part of athletics, especially at this level. And, why hasn't the Michigan football program been able to adequately develop kids? Wolf 58 says at Brandon and Harper. No, and speaking of player development, this is an excuse to show Abdul Gaines' favorite all-time Michigan football recruit. And the poster child for the lack of development in the Michigan football program, none other than, darn, I did it again. None other than, wait for it, Rashawn Gary. Abdul Gaines, I love this picture of Rashawn Gary, by the way. It looks like it's just after a Michigan win. And he's up in the stands with the student section. Look at that kid. He's got his Wolverine hat on. They're taking selfies. Rashawn Gary's just hamming it up, having a good time. I love this picture. This is one of my favorite Michigan football pictures at this point. But Abdul Gaines' biggest knock, and I think Abdul Gaines was the first one to say this after the Revenge Tour team debacle down in the Horseshoe. Abdul Gaines was the first one that I heard say it, was that Rashawn Gary didn't live up to the hype when he came into the Michigan football program. I'm not picking on the kid. The kid's he's in the NFL. He's a hell of a lot more athletic than I'll ever be. He has the natural ability. He got a scholarship to the University of Michigan, so I'm not knocking the kid personally. But when you're the number 1 high school player in the country, and in the biggest games on the biggest stage against Ohio State, those are statement games. The game planning was a little flawed, especially in 2018, but I think we all expected to get a little bit more from Rashawn Gary, but I hope he's happy on the Green Bay Packers right now. And I think Rashawn Gary is a testament. Here he is. So I have to put the picture back up as I read this comment. I have to do it. Rashawn's having a good time in that picture. Rashawn Gary is a massive underachiever. He's like a third pass rusher in Green Bay. When I see Rashawn Gary, I see a player who's not as committed as, let's say, Chase Young. That's a good point. You know, in the NFL right now, since Rashawn left, have you heard a lot about Rashawn Gary making that much of an impact on those Green Bay Packers teams right now? I haven't. Of course, I don't live in Wisconsin. Maybe if I lived in Wisconsin, I'd hear some more about what's happening with the Packers other than Aaron Rodgers. But I have not heard a lot about Rashawn Gary. And again, that's not beating the kid up, but Wolf58 says, I'm going to see what I can do to get you down here for an OSU game in Ohio Stadium. You'd love it. Even as a Michigan fan, I promise we'll go easy on you. Hey, Wolf, yeah, man. When things get rolling again, I'd absolutely love to come to the Horseshoe. It looks like a very beautiful venue. Let me put the picture back up here. It looks like a very beautiful venue, even when it's full with scarlet and gray like that. I'd love to go down there on a nice, gray, chilly Midwest day to see the game. I will take you up on that offer, and maybe Abdul Gaines and his brother can come as well, because his brother is a diehard Buckeye fan. So I would absolutely love that. Tailgate at the beginning of the game, you know, eat up those bratwursts and drink beer and all those sinful treats. I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Appreciate it. See, Wolverine fans and Buckeye fans can get along. So, all right, guys, we're right at Abdul Gaines. You're gonna make me show the Rashawn Gary picture again. All right, Abdul Gaines, you made me do it. You're making me show the Rashawn Gary picture there. Look at Rashawn. He's having a good time. Look at that grin. Look at that grin. He's looking into that phone like, let me get my big head into this selfie. And look at that kid taking the picture. This has got to be one of my favorite Michigan pictures now. Let's look at the comment section. Oh boy, look who's here. Hold on. Alex, we're going to rock out for another 25 minutes since you're here. But let me play the intro song for Alex Dilworth. You know, I never have to worry about these songs getting copyrighted because these songs are so old. They're considered public domain. Just one of the things you learn as a YouTube content creator. Oh, let me take down Rashawn Gary and put up the shoe. Get down, Rashawn Gary. Get down from there. It's not your song. It's their song. Darn. There we go. The shoe, the background.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hold on. Here goes the good part.
Big win today. Big win today. Hopefully everybody is ready for next week. I've kept my mouth shut for the past 90 days.
Hold on, man. You're going to get some time. Let's wait for the good part. Alex Dilworth, what's going on?
How's it going, my brother? How you doing?
Hey, man. Hey, I was able to carry an hour and a half without you. I was surprised. They came in here. They were commenting. We're talking about Jim and the coronavirus and Rashawn Gary and all of it. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed it. I was finishing watching the game and then I was watching the post game. I didn't know that. I didn't get the notification that you were jumping in. I would have came in here and been here with you. But since we're here, right?
Yeah, it's technically Ohio State week now.
It's Ohio State week. Since we're here, I'm just curious what you guys are gonna do. Taking it to a Michigan Detroit thing. I feel like Eminem and 8 Mile, where Ohio State's like, what you gonna do? In the battle, what you gonna do? And I'm curious to see what Michigan is gonna do. Are they gonna show up? Are you gonna show up? Catch this L? Catch this 0-5? What you gonna do?
Well, that's not my decision. So I don't know what we're going to do. Ward and Jim, I guess they have to decide. Well, let me ask you this. In Franklin County, is the coast clear?
Oh, we're good. I mean, we played today.
All right.
Today, right? We're fine.
All right. Well,
like I said, the issue was that they took precautions because
hold on. While Alex comes back, hey guys, I'm only seeing 6 likes here. Yeah, can I get I got 13 watching right now. Can I get the likes up to 13 or 12 or something? Help a brother out. All right, go ahead, Alex. Still can't. You might want to leave and come back in. Can't hear you. You're not muted. I can't. Yeah, why don't you leave and come back in? All right, he's gonna leave and come back in. I'm gonna wait patiently for Alex. There he is. All right, there you go.
Okay. No, so they were definitely taking precautions. They had some minor things here and there. They definitely had enough to play against Illinois. They were making sure that they weren't going to have further outbreaks. So, even though Franklin County wise, they didn't hit the Big Ten threshold in Franklin County. They hit their own threshold. So, from what I understand, and they never hit the threshold in regards to I'm gonna hop off here.
No, you're back. You're back.
You hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I would so they hit that threshold, and we're as far as players wise, we obviously if anybody paid attention, we only had one offensive line starter today, and still put up 52. They got 12. One of those was, our center wasn't playing, so we had an offensive lineman playing center, some ill snaps, but for the most part, he had a really good day. And we're on to the week, so I'm just waiting to see, what are they going to show up, catch this L? Like, what's going on? Like, don't be scared. Everybody takes this butt whooping. Some people take it lightly, don't take it personally. Everybody's going to take this butt whooping. So, listen, Abdul, I'm only going to hold this seat for so long, my brother. Like, you got 4 days to make up your mind. Because come Friday, you need to be either in the ship or off.
Well, you got to be careful, man, because Abdul Gaines, he jumps from ship to ship.
Nah, when you jump on this ship, you can't jump off.
Except for the Lakers. But he jumps ship to ship. So
yeah, you jump on this ship, you can't jump off. Can't do it.
All right, Abdul Gaines. You heard that. Once you're over, you can't leave.
No take backs.
Trevor Cole says, I really don't think Michigan is going to play next week, unfortunately.
That's okay. That's the only way they can win. I have held my tongue for weeks on this.
But Alex, that's not a win though.
For them, it is, because Michigan is the moral high. They're the moral high university in the Big Ten. Everything is, they take the moral high road.
Wow. I don't know, man. I think if they don't play, there's going to be a black eye on the program for a while. So it's kind of like they have to do it. But I don't know. We'll
Only moral victories when it comes to Big Blue. Only moral victories. That's it. Those are only victories that you guys can cash in on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're getting it. I have held my tongue. I haven't said not nay word, and you know this. I haven't said a thing.
Yeah, man. I mean,
we're here.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I'm predicting. I mean, geez, the score next week could be worse than what you guys did to Michigan State today. In terms of your point output.
Well,
So,
we had a lot of turnovers. Michigan doesn't really turn the football over, so we had 3 turnovers today. We had a defensive touchdown. So I would say this. I mean, I definitely feel like in regard we got to see the depth of Ohio State today, which was really awesome. And I mean, we made some mistakes too. Don't get me wrong. We had some mistakes on the offensive line. We had 2 fumbles by Chris Olave. So we have some things to clean up as well. But I definitely like where Michigan State is and where they're going to be going forward. I like that a lot, and I feel like you guys dodged a bullet by not having that backup QB play, because I feel like he would have played better than Lombardi. I like his game a lot. I mean, he did make an ill-advised throw. He was off a little bit with the Shaun Wade interception after the Olave fumble, but looking back on everything, and I've been back and forth about this, where the more I hear some not so good things coming out of that program up north. So it's changed my opinion on some things a lot. I know that right now they're in the middle of a negotiation, not for Jim's, not for bringing him back. They're in a negotiation whether or not they're going to bring him back. And to be this late, and I'm sorry if you cover this. I was watching the post game, watching the post game with the Buckeyes. So if I missed it, I'm sorry, but I know they're in negotiations right now to see if they even want to bring him back at all, which is really, really weird to be this late into the process, thinking about not bringing him back the following year. So who would be in these negotiations? I mean, it's between the AD, the boosters, and I believe that him and his agent have been in contact with them from some of the other reporting that I'm seeing, some of the other things.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean that's what I'm hearing. I mean, I don't know if you heard about the Joe Milton thing yet.
That came up, but you rehash it for us. What did you hear?
I mean, I heard a couple things. I heard that he didn't come back. That even if they would have, in the locker room, he said that he wanted to leave. He was transferring and he was going to come back and hang 50 on Michigan, which everybody and their mama knows the only way he's doing that is if he's playing receiver. But I mean, it's not just him. It's other players within that program that do not like the direction that the program is going in, and don't be surprised if you see some transfers from players, in the off season. So the one thing that I thought was interesting was he said that, and then they threw him back in the game anyway. after McNamara got hurt. I never would have done that. As a matter of fact, for me, it speaks to, I think, where Michigan is as a program. Anytime you say that in a locker room, as far as I'm concerned, you're no longer a part of this program. I will show you the door immediately. Like that's just that. So I know they said that he was hurt, and I think they kind of brought that up to make sure that he didn't go back in the game after the fact. But if you're saying that and you're spreading that type of energy in a locker room, you just can't be a part of the locker room anymore.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I'm thinking, he's a young kid, but if he's to the point where he's saying something like that, then he's not loyal to the program. Or
I don't think it's a loyalty thing. I think it's standards. Like that's just not the standard at Michigan to say that out loud. And I think it's standards, and I think it's leadership. I think like anytime you have your starting quarterback saying this out loud in the locker room with other coaches and other players, you have a leadership and a culture problem, a huge leadership and culture problem. That for one, it should just be expected as a student athlete in a prestigious program like Michigan to handle yourself a certain way. If you're disgruntled, fine, but that is the utmost disrespect to the program, to the football program there at Michigan, to the coaches, and the fact that for whatever reason he didn't get the guidance or the leadership to conduct himself in a different way says a lot about that program and where they are. Which has, I know I had a hot take the other week where I said that I thought if they bring back Jim that they were going to win 10 or 11 games. I'm completely going in the opposite direction of that, with more information that's coming out about the program. I will be surprised if they bring Jim back. I know they have to make a decision probably within the next 12 days because of the early signing period. But sometimes, I just think it's just easy if you just cut bait early, don't prolong this. And no offense, I know everybody's like, well, what about JJ McCarthy? JJ McCarthy's not doing squat in that program. Like, let's keep it 100. You don't have the infrastructure. You don't have the talent to put around him to succeed right now. You're not bringing in the talent for a 5-star to come in and succeed. You're not developing the players with the talent that you're bringing in. So I just feel like Michigan really needs just a hard reset as a program. They need a hard reset. And maybe you take a year to figure that out, what direction you want to go in. But keep in mind when you do that, I'm not trying to down Michigan in any way, but like Michigan's going to be competing against other jobs that are open, and Michigan is just not. I mean, it's a Power 5 job, great, but what's the opportunity look like? What's the situation look like at Michigan? That's going to be a big thing. I definitely think USC, Texas, possibly Miami, South Carolina. Those are better jobs right now. To be honest with you, if those jobs do open up, there's better jobs. If Tennessee opens up, that's a possibility. Tennessee's a better job. They're right there in the SEC. They got a lot of rich talent that comes out of that state, as small as it is. But I feel like all those jobs are better jobs, better opportunities than the Michigan job is right now. Because coming in, you're going to have to you're building the program pretty much from the bottom up. You're having to, figure out what the culture is going to be going forward with that program. What you want your expectations to be. And if you guys think you're getting a top tier coach, I would say any top tier coach is taking the SC or Texas job over the Michigan job right now. I would even, like I said, I'm even throwing South Carolina in there as well, and Tennessee. I think all those are better jobs than the Michigan job right now.
Abdul Gain says, I hear you, Alex. I don't doubt the Lakers commitment. I don't doubt Ohio State's commitment. I will make my decision soon, Alex.
4 days, buddy. That's all you got. Friday, you're either with us or you're against us.
Trevor Cole says, this might be the last time Alex is welcome on this show. Wow, battle lines are being drawn.
Hey.
Alex, was Michigan State playing hard in this game? Let me read these other two. As a young fan, I was wondering if you personally think the rivalry still has the same importance as it did in the 80s or the 90s.
Let me answer that question really quick, Brandon. I'm glad you're a young Michigan fan. Don't let this discourage you. I definitely think the rivalry has changed, and it's changed for a couple different reasons. Historically, Ohio State has always recruited better than Michigan. We've always had the better program. Historically, we've always gotten the better players. In the 80s and 90s, the Rose Bowl was the thing. This is before you could play, actually compete two teams against one another for a national championship prior to the college football, prior to the BCS. So getting to the Rose Bowl was the most important thing. And the SEC, the Big Ten was just as strong as the SEC conference was in college football. It was the dominant programming. It was the dominant conference in college football at the time. So with that being said, every year, we were trying to win the Big Ten, because winning the Big Ten gave you an opportunity just to win a national championship. Where, when you put in the BCS and then you put in the college football playoff, those things changed where, I believe it was in 2017, Ohio State didn't win the Big Ten conference. It still had an opportunity to play for a national championship, and so on and so forth. And I think that, once Jim Tressel, and you can look that name up, once Jim Tressel took over the program, there was a shift where, although the Big Ten, winning the Big Ten was important, we stopped really trying to. I mean, winning the Big Ten was great. But we were playing for a national championship. And I feel like from that moment that Jim Tressel took over the program, that was the shift. The difference of why the rivalry isn't what it is today is because both of these teams are playing. One's playing for a national championship, and the other one's playing to win the Big Ten. And when you're playing to win the Big Ten, you're going to recruit a certain level of talent. But when you're trying to win a national championship every single year, you're going to recruit an even higher, a higher rate of talent into the program. So, with that being said, I don't think that it's the same. When you're winning, I don't know, it's 16 of the last 17 years against your rival, it no longer becomes a rivalry. Rivalries are built on tradition, but they're also built on competition. And I don't feel like Michigan's really been as competitive as the other programs that we played in the country. I feel like right now with Ohio State, we're more rivalries with Clemson and Alabama than we are with Michigan, even though we play Michigan every year.
Okay. Let's see. Abdul Gain says, and Alex, U of M doesn't have the administrative commitment necessary for a football program to flourish at a college football playoff level. And he says, at Brandon, Harper, Ohio State absolutely takes the rivalry seriously. U of M doesn't as much. This stems from Tressel to now.
Correct. So we take the rivalry seriously, but I mean, we take it in Ohio, we take it very seriously. But I don't think it has as much prestige as it once did because of the lopsided wins in the last 20 years. I think that's put a damper on the rivalry. And Brandon, I don't know if if you dig into some history on the other side, I don't know what Michigan does, but Ohio State has a clock on their practice field and in their locker room that is set for the next time they play Michigan. they practice. They have their weekly practice, and then they have their practice for the Michigan game every practice. They have a allotted time set aside to prepare to beat Michigan every year in every practice. They have a lot of time. So we take it very seriously. The Ohio State fan base. I don't know how seriously Michigan takes it. But I just, like I said, with the lopsided victories the last couple of years and just the consistency, that one program has had over the other, I don't think it necessarily has the same prestige as it once did when I was probably your age.
Okay. Abdul Gaines says U of M hasn't beaten an Ohio State team with a permanent head coach since I was 27. That says it all. That would be
the only one they had was the Luke Fickell year. That was the only one that they had, and they barely beat Ohio State that year. And Ohio State lost probably the best player in the country, their top wide receiver, their top running back, and another player. I can't remember who it was.
He's referring to Lloyd Carr's last win over Ohio State.
Okay.
Back in
I was saying that the Luke Fickell year, the last year that Michigan beat Ohio State was the year they lost to Terrell Pryor and the rest of those guys. So, yeah.
All right, well, Alex, we're up on the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna make one more comment / observation, and then I'll probably shut it down. Thanks for coming up as always. I'm surprised. I'm just surprised with the whole Joe Milton piece, with Jim playing under Bo, and as big as Bo was on culture and loyalty and the team. I'm surprised that Jim wouldn't know better in terms of building his own program, and I'm surprised that hasn't trickled down into his coaching.
I think two things. Jim is not Bo. That's the first thing. Jim is not Bo. Every coach is different. Every coach takes what they learn and put their own spin on it. So I think having the same don't have the same expectations for two different people because they're two different people.
That's a good point.
With that being said, I think that was a mistake that he made. I think that majority of the coaches in the country wouldn't do that, but he did it for a reason. And I don't know what's going on inside of that program, but whatever it is, it's not good. It's not good at all. So, I was, if you watch my commentary previously, I have given Michigan the benefit of the doubt week after week after week after week. But the more new information comes out, when you get new information, you have to look at it, compare it to everything else that you have, and then you make a determination. And, I think there's a reason why the football team is bad. I think there is, like before, and I know I've said this, I never thought Michigan was a 2-4, 2-whatever football team. Yeah, I think they actually kind of are. I think they lack a lot of things. I think they lack leadership, they lack development, they lack culture. And even in the event that a player did come out and say this, the fact that we're not hearing that nobody else stepped up and said anything to Joe Milton says even more to me. That's the most alarming thing. Like when you say, man, I'm coming back here and I'm hanging 50, and you're saying this to people and nobody stops you in your tracks and says, bro, if that's how you feel, you'll need to be here. Or the coaching staff not even saying, if that's how you feel, pack your bags. Nobody has said anything to this kid. He's still in the program as of right now. What are you guys doing? What are you doing up there? Like, if those are the type of people that you're going to take in your program, you're not going to win. You're not going to win.
Yeah.
And in Joe's defense, do I feel like he deserved to be benched? No. But at the same time, do I feel like that's the way to react once you are benched? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we're at 2 hours. This has been a double header for me.
You kept it going, man. I'm proud of you.
Hey, man, I told the folks from the chat and viewing, this is a participation thing. So if they weren't here commenting, then I would have been done in 30 minutes. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who's in the chat. So let's see what happens this week. There's going to be a lot of news.
What are your thoughts? You think they're going to play? I don't think they're going to play. I'm talking just to talk, but I don't think they're going to play. I don't.
I don't think they will either.
I don't think so.
Now that doesn't mean we're right, because they might do it, but with a program in free fall and just knowing you're going to get at least beat the way Michigan State did today, maybe worse, and you have an alibi.
There is that, right? There is that.
My high school coach used to say the only buy is an alibi. Is that what he said? The only buy is an alibi. Anyway,
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I've heard that. I'm curious to see what happens. I don't think they're going to play. The one thing that really bothers me is that I haven't heard really any details about why they didn't play this week.
Well, the Free Press, this article here, it talks about COVID concerns, but they've been very reading the article, they've been very hush about it.
And that's
whatever it is.
I read that article. That article really didn't say very much.
Yeah, they had to piece things together.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, with Ohio State, they said, "Hey, it's a mixture of players. It's a mixture of coaches. We could have played, but this is the reason why we didn't play was because we wanted to make sure that we got our hands around it to make sure it wasn't a major outbreak than what it was." Right? They were completely upfront, completely transparent. Obviously, with when you're dealing with student athletes and you have HIPAA violations, things like that you don't want to cross, but they were as transparent as they possibly could be. Michigan wasn't. They were just like, yeah, we're not going to play because we have an outbreak, and that was pretty much the gist of it, which makes me think they're not going to play next week. So, I mean, I hope they do. I'm more curious about if they don't play, what are we going to do with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship? So,
well, they want to switch it over to a percentage measurement, right?
Right, but that's only if every team is under 6 games. That's the catch. So every team, when they switch over to winning percentage, that means that the average of teams in the Big Ten play less than six or less games, which is not. So that means that Ohio State, if they don't play next week, is going to be left out of the Big Ten championship. So I'm curious.
Wow.
Yeah. FUBAR.
So the next question is, do we want to help you guys? Hey, question. When a team gets into the playoff, does the entire conference get a cut of the money, or just the school?
Good question. I think the conference gets money.
Okay. I
think the conference gets money. I personally feel like.
So what I'm asking is there a stake in this for all the Big Ten teams, where they all get a cut of the money if one goes?
Yes.
Is that why they're leveraging for this?
Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. Yes, believe so. I believe that. But we'll see. I feel like even if they don't play, so here's the thing. I think if they obviously beating Michigan we're not really worried about that, but having the opportunity to play Northwestern, who's another ranked team, and beating them is another feather in the cap for the resume of Ohio State. So I feel like that helps the resume for resume purposes. But if we cancel one game and then we had two other cancellations that weren't due to our own doing, I feel like they've done enough to play for a national championship. I feel like they're, with the statement win they had today, they are, defensive wise, they played a really, really sharp game. They made two really big mistakes. One was a blown coverage, and the other one was a fumble that was lost. Three actually, and then the safety at the end, which was an ill-advised snap. So they made three really big mistakes on defense. But besides that, I feel like they played the best defense gap-wise that they played all season. I definitely feel like they shored up a lot of those secondary issues outside of the one, double move where the corner got bit on a double move that set them up to score in the third quarter. But I feel like they're playing, their best football. So we'll just wait to see what happens in regards to that. The question is, you're right. Whoever said that, do they want to help us? I look at it like this. If you guys show up, nobody wants Jim there anyway. Go ahead and give him 0-5. The fan base will be in an uproar. They'll get him out of there. They'll bring in somebody else. We'll whoop them too. Everybody wins. I feel like everybody wins. We beat Jim. You guys do what you do. You put the pressure on and you get Jim up out of there because I know a lot of people, the majority of the fan base doesn't want him there, anyway. So, and the one thing you don't want is I feel like they lucked out this year, not having fans in the stands, because I definitely think the boos were coming. Like they were there. The boos were there. You guys didn't win a home game this year. The boos were there to be had. 100%.
Wow.
And I don't know if anybody's even brought that up yet. That I feel like they're lucky that they didn't play any home games, because the boos, like when you're getting booed by your own fan base, you can't keep your coach, and that's probably what's going to happen next year if they keep him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll end on these two. Jim has lost the culture and some of the players. Why does he get the opportunity to come back? Doesn't make sense to me. And then Abdul Gain says, I believe U of M will weasel out of this game. So with that, either way, in the next couple of days, there will be news. I don't know what it will be. There'll be news for us. There'll be news for you guys.
Let's talk about it.
So I don't know. So let's keep our eyes on what happens, what develops in Ann Arbor and Columbus and all of this. So, Alex, you want to say anything else before we stop?
Yeah. I have been on repeatedly wanting Michigan to be great because the rivalry is always better when Michigan. I feel like college football is great when Ohio State and Michigan, when the rivalry is competitive. And I've been on record saying that numerous times. But this week is a different week, so I hope y'all show up, and I hope we kick them out of you. This week is different.
Yeah.
The week after,
we'll all be friends again.
Yeah, we'll all be friends again. But this week, we are enemies this week. But no, I would say, with the channel, I've grown to have a great appreciation for the Michigan fan base, probably more than I ever have. So, but this week, hate you guys. Sorry, like it is what it is. Like I got the clock going on my phone too. So, if you guys don't show up, then I might really double down. So,
well, you might be getting a new fan too, right here. I'll be making my news with my fandom as well.
But no, I mean, I hope that I just hope the game gets played. I hope it's, if it does, I hope it's competitive in the first quarter and a half,
Yeah.
and then typically those are how the games go. It's competitive for the first quarter and a half, and then halftime, we
pull away.
we kind of pull away. But I mean, we'll wait and see. I hope the game does get played. I hope we beat Michigan, and I actually hope they retain Jim, because by retaining Jim, it's just better for us at the end of the day, because we know that you can't win with him. Like Phil Jackson said once upon a time, that Doc Rivers knows how to lose games, and so does Jim Harbaugh. He knows how to lose games.
Oh, Abdul Gaines is going to come after me for that one, because I was rooting for the Clippers this year, so he's going to use that one. Yeah, man, I was rooting for the Clippers.
Okay, so this is gonna sound a little biased, right? This is gonna sound a little
Abdul Gaines. Go ahead.
It's gonna sound a little biased.
Yeah.
But due to the fact that me and that man over there in LA we're from the same city. We're from the same block, grew up around the same people. I know he knows everybody that I know, and vice versa. Don't ever bet it unless you have 4 Hall of Famers on your team. Don't bet against 23. Never bet against LeBron. Unless you have 4 Hall of Famers on your team, that's when you bet against him. Outside of that, don't bet against him.
Hey, he's the fake 23.
Okay. Do we really want to have that conversation? Nobody wants to have that conversation.
He's already starting. We ran Doc out of town and took Trez from you.
That's right, Abdul. I put it like this. Don't bet against LeBron. Unless you have 4 Hall of Famers on your team, don't bet against him, because he always wins.
Well, this year I'm gonna take a step back and just watch. As an objective observer.
That might be good for you. That might be a good idea.
All right. Well, on that note, everyone pay attention to the news cycle. See what they come up with in terms of playing the game, and see if this is the week Jim and the university amicably part ways. Oh yeah. See if they decide to help out OSU go back to their home in Indianapolis. So if you're watching on the replay, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to make a donation of any kind, my Cash App and PayPal are below. Everyone, stay safe out there. Stay healthy. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Go Blue, go Bucks, whatever your team is. And pay attention. We'll be talking about whatever happens. So,
no, go Blue. Show up and get this butt whooping. Go Blue. Show up and get this butt whooping.
All right, we'll see. All right, everyone. All right, Alex.
All right, have a good one.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Wow. Hey, who'd ever thought? I didn't know that Joe Milton said that. I'm going to shut this down. But wow, that's huge that Joe would I know it had to be frustrating for that kid. But to say that to your teammates and to your coaching staff, that's bad. And if Jim has lost the program to that extent, that's bad. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. This was a doubleheader for me. I'm going to give myself and my poor computer here a rest. So, hey, let's watch what happens. And as always, remember, everyone, that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. All right, bye-bye.